Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time, all the way to a world where a cough could be a death sentence and the news traveled on the wind, carried by whispers and fear. I want you to imagine you're there. You're a villager in a small, muddy hamlet, the kind with thatched roofs and a permanent smell of wood smoke and wet earth. It's a place where life is hard, but predictable. You wake with the sun, you work the land, and you pray the harvest is good enough to get you through the winter. This is your world. It's a world you'd probably not survive for very long. To be honest, no antibiotics, no clean water, no Google to tell you what that weird rash is. You'd be lucky to make it to 35. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. But before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Maybe someone in California is just starting their day, while someone in Australia is winding down. It's wild to think about. Now, let's get back to your village. The air is cool and damp as a new season begins, but something feels different. A stillness has settled over the usual clamor. The miller's wife isn't singing as she grinds the grain, and the children aren't chasing geese in the town square. You hear whispers, hushed and low, passed from one person to the next. They speak of a sickness, a creeping malaise that started in a distant port city. It's a disease that brings with it a high fever and painful swellings, and it's moving closer every day. The whispers tell of entire families being wiped out, of a town where the bell ringer no longer has the strength to toll the bell for the dead. It feels distant, like a bad dream happening to someone else. But the fear is real. A cold knot in your stomach. You hear the first rumors of a cure, a desperate hope clinging to the dark tales of sickness. It's a miraculous concoction, they say, made from the heart of a serpent and the tears of a saint. The story changes with each telling. One version claims you must boil a raven's wing in wine. Another insists on a poultice of crushed pearls and toad eyes. This is the first wave of fake news, not shared on a glowing screen, but spoken in the marketplace, passed from a traveling merchant to a weary farmer. These rumors are not just stories. They are lifelines, however fragile. In a sea of hopelessness, you find yourself listening to them, clinging to them, even as a logical part of you questions their truth. After all, what else is there to cling to? Your hands, calloused and rough from years of labor, tremble slightly as you help your neighbor bring in his last harvest. He's an old man, his back bent like a question mark, and he coughs a wet, rattling cough that makes you flinch. He speaks of a potion a man passed through selling, made from mandrake root and nightshade. He says it's a sure thing. But the man had asked for a silver coin, a fortune for a poor farmer. The old man hadn't been able to afford it. And now he looks at you with a mixture of fear and regret in his watery eyes. It's a look that makes you feel uneasy. A look that says you, too, are a potential victim. You wander through the village, the air thick with an unspoken dread. The church bells toll more frequently now, a slow, solemn rhythm that marks the passage of souls. Each peal is a new punch to the gut, a reminder that the plague is no longer a distant whisper. It is here. You see a woman, her face pale with fever, clutching a small bag made of linen. Someone told her it contains a protective charm, a lock of hair from a holy man. They said she believes it with all her heart. You see a man, a strong blacksmith, mixing a vile-smelling paste in a bowl, convinced it will ward off the sickness. He heard from a peddler that a mixture of sulfur and vinegar, when smeared on the doors and windows, will keep the plague spirits away. This is the very essence of the problem, isn't it? The lack of information creates a vacuum, and desperation fills it with anything it can find. This is a common historical fact in times of great crisis. People will grasp at straws, and charlatans will emerge to sell them those straws. The medieval world, with its poor communication and limited medical knowledge, was a fertile ground for such schemes, but it wasn't just about simple folklore. The stories and remedies grew more elaborate, more fantastical, fueled by the collective terror of a population facing an invisible enemy. The idea that you could be saved by some secret knowledge or special ingredient was a powerful one. It gave people a sense of control, a feeling that they weren't just helpless victims. It was a lie, but a comforting one. The stories of cures became a form of currency, traded like goods. Each one more unbelievable than the last. A man with a deep, authoritative voice could sell a potion made of mud and animal fat, simply by claiming it was a secret from a far-off land, a secret that only he possessed. People wanted to believe him. They needed to believe him. You find yourself in the small marketplace, where a few villagers are still gathered, their faces etched with anxiety. An old woman, her back to you, is speaking in hushed tones to her neighbor. You catch a few words from a holy man. Blessed by the saints, a cure for the humors. The humors. This is the established medical theory of the time. The idea that the body is made up of 4 essential fluids: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile, and that sickness is caused by an imbalance. A sophisticated-sounding fake cure would often use this language, lending it an air of legitimacy. It's the medieval equivalent of a modern snake oil salesman using scientific-sounding jargon to sell a placebo. You feel a cough coming on and your heart lurches. It's just a cough, a simple tickle in your throat. But for a terrifying moment, it feels like the beginning of the end. You swallow hard, trying to push the fear back down. You look at the sky, a vast, indifferent blue above the small, enclosed world of your village. You wonder what the great doctors of the world are doing. Are they also succumbing to the panic? Or are they working on a real cure? This is where the academic debate still rages. How much did learned physicians of the time actually believe in these more mystical or superstitious cures? And how much was simply an attempt to offer comfort in a world where real medical solutions were non-existent? Some historians argue that many educated doctors also subscribed to these folk remedies, seeing them as a necessary part of a holistic approach that included both the physical and the spiritual. Others contend that they were simply trying to maintain their authority and not appear helpless in the face of a terrifying disease. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in the middle. A new face appears in the village square, a man you've never seen before. He's dressed in fine clothes, though they are dusty from the road, and he has a silver locket around his neck. He carries a small wooden chest, and a few curious villagers, desperate for news, begin to gather around him. He doesn't shout or call out like a common peddler. Instead, he speaks in a low, conspiratorial tone, inviting them closer. He speaks of a journey, of a long quest to find the one true cure. He says he has it in his wooden chest. It's a story, a performance. And the villagers, so starved for hope, are captivated. The man opens the chest. Inside, on a bed of dark velvet, sits a small, perfectly preserved glass vial. It contains a thick, dark liquid that seems to catch the faint sunlight and glow with an otherworldly light. He claims it is the elixir of life, a potion distilled from rare herbs found only in the highest mountains, blessed by a reclusive order of monks. The crowd murmurs, a sound of awe and disbelief. He speaks of the elixir's power not only to cure the plague, but to extend life itself. He says it will rebalance the humors, purify the blood, and chase away the evil spirits that cause the sickness. It is a beautiful lie, a truly astonishing piece of fake news. You can feel the pull of it, the desperate hope it offers. You can almost feel the warmth of the elixir, the promise of a long life without suffering. He says he will sell one vial, just one, for a very high price. A family of merchants, their faces pale with worry over a sick child. Steps forward, they offer him all the money they have. The man takes it, gives them the vial, and tells them to use just a single drop. He tells them it's a sacred thing, not to be wasted. The family, their hands shaking, walks away with their precious cure. You watch them go, a lump in your throat. You want to believe it will work. You really do. You return to your small cottage. The smell of wood smoke, comforting and familiar. But the peace is gone. The whispers are in your head now. The visions of the plague. The desperation of the villagers. You think about the elixir of life and the family that bought it. What will happen to them? Will the child get better? Or will they have been robbed of their life savings for nothing? You close your eyes and try to imagine a world where real medicine exists. Where a doctor can look at you and tell you exactly what is wrong. It feels like a fantasy, a fairy tale from a far-off land. A detail that a lot of people don't know is just how sophisticated some of these cons could be. It wasn't just some guy selling mud. The best con men would research local superstitions, religious beliefs, and medical theories to make their remedies sound as believable as possible. They might even include a tiny, almost undetectable amount of a real, but inert, ingredient to lend their potion a subtle scent or taste that would make it seem more potent. It was a psychological game, a masterful manipulation of hope and fear, and in the medieval world, it was often the most profitable business in town. As night falls, you listen to the sounds of the village. The wind sighs through the thatched roofs. A dog barks in the distance, and you can hear, faintly, the rhythmic pounding of a mortar and pestle from someone's cottage. Someone is trying to make a cure that, they heard a new rumor, a new recipe, and they are trying to find their own hope in a world that seems to be running out of it. You pull a blanket over yourself and try to sleep. But the plague, in all its forms, the sickness itself, and the rumors it spawns has found its way into your dreams. You dream of the blacksmith, his face streaked with black soot and fear, mixing his sulfur paste. You dream of the woman with the holy man's hair, her feverish skin ashen. You dream of the merchant family, looking at the glowing vial, a look of desperate hope on their faces. You dream of the traveling man with the silver locket, his smile thin and knowing as he pockets their money. You dream of all the lies and the half-truths, the well-meaning folklore and the malicious scams, all swirling together in a dark cloud of fear. The plague is not just a disease of the body, it is a disease of the mind, and the fake news is its most potent symptom. You know this now, deep in your bones. It's a creeping dread that is harder to shake than any cough. The next morning, you wake to the sound of the church bell. One slow toll, then another, and another. You count them, and your heart sinks a little with each one. They are for the old man with the bent back, the one who couldn't afford the mandrake root potion. You heard from his daughter that he was talking about it until the very end, wishing he had been able to buy it. She even told you that she tried to make a cheaper version herself. But it hadn't worked. He had died believing that the cure had been out there, just beyond his reach. That's a truly chilling thought. Isn't it dying not just from a disease, but from the false hope of a cure you couldn't get your hands on? The bell stops, and the village falls into a somber silence. You step outside and feel the cold air on your face. A new day, a new round of whispers. You wonder what new story will be told, what new lie will be sold. You have seen the start of it now. You have seen the desperate hope and the cruel exploitation, and you have the terrible feeling that this is just the beginning. The plague is a monster, but the fake cures are its cruel, grinning servants, and they will be with you all the way through this dark time. You're standing in the bustling marketplace, the air thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and roasting meat. The sounds of hawkers and merchants shouting their wares are a constant drone. But you're not listening to them. You're watching the road. Your eyes fixed on the path that leads into your village. You're expecting him, the apothecary. The whispers have been relentless. The stories of his miraculous cures growing more and more fantastical with each telling. Some say he can bring the dead back to life. Others claim his potions can make you invisible to the plague itself. You know it's just talk. But a tiny, desperate part of you hopes that maybe. Just maybe, it's true. And then you see him. He's not what you expected. He's not a wizened old man with a long beard and a mystical aura. He's a young man, perhaps no older than you, with a sharp, intelligent face and a meticulous air about him. He wears a clean tunic, a stark contrast to the grubby clothes of the villagers, and his hands are spotless, free from the grime of labor. He pushes a small cart, and on it, a gleaming array of glass bottles and strange, dried herbs. He's a showman, a master of his craft, and his craft is selling hope. He doesn't shout, he speaks in a calm, confident voice, addressing the small crowd that is gathered around him. He tells them he has traveled from a great city, a place of learning and science, where the greatest minds of the age are working to combat the plague. He says he has been entrusted with a secret recipe, a cure so potent that it will not only protect you from the sickness, but also cure you if you are already afflicted. He holds up a small bottle of a thick, emerald green liquid. "This," he says, his voice a low, mesmerizing whisper, "is the elixir vitae. It is a distillation of the rarest herbs, gathered from the highest peaks of the mountains. Under the light of a full moon, it contains the essence of the mandrake root, the power of the nightshade, and the wisdom of the ancient scholars. You listen, and you feel the familiar tug of desperation." The words sound so official, so scientific. He uses words like distillation and essence and humors, all of which lend an air of legitimacy to his claims. He's not just a con man, he's a professional. He knows what people want to hear. He knows that they are tired of folk remedies and prayers, and they are ready for something that sounds like it could actually work. He is the medieval version of a wellness guru, selling a product that is all sizzle and no steak. He explains that the elixir works by rebalancing the four humors of the body blood: phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. He says that the plague is caused by an excess of black bile, a cold, dark humor that breeds sickness. His elixir, he claims, will warm the body, purge the black bile, and restore the natural balance. It's a compelling lie, built on the very foundation of the medical knowledge of the day. A detail that a lot of people don't know is that the apothecary's trade was not just about selling medicine. It was also about showmanship, about creating a sense of trust and authority. Many apothecaries would wear special clothes, use elaborate rituals, and even have their own secret recipes to differentiate themselves from common peddlers. They were the original marketing experts. He demonstrates the power of his elixir by pouring a few drops onto a piece of old leather. The leather sizzles and smokes, a dramatic effect that makes the crowd gasp. He says it's proof of the potion's potency, its ability to burn away the evil humors. A couple of men in the crowd, their faces pale with worry, ask how much it costs. The apothecary smiles a thin, knowing smile. This is a rare and precious substance. He says, "I cannot give it away, but for a single gold florin, you can have a vial, enough to protect your entire family." A gold florin is a king's ransom, a fortune for a simple villager. It's an astronomical price, but in the face of a terrifying plague, it's a price some are willing to pay. You watch as a farmer, a man you know, a good, honest man, steps forward, his hands shaking as he opens a small pouch and counts out the coins. He gives them to the apothecary, who takes them with a practiced ease and hands him the vial. The farmer clutches it to his chest as if it were a holy relic, a look of profound relief washing over his face. You can see the hope in his eyes, the absolute conviction that he has just bought his family's salvation. It's a heart-wrenching sight, a testament to the power of fear and the willingness of some to exploit it. This is a universal historical fact in times of crisis. The price of cures often skyrocketed, and the poor were often the first to be exploited. The rich could afford to buy the best, even if the best was just a placebo, while the poor were left with nothing, or they had to sacrifice everything for a slim chance at survival. You turn away, unable to watch any longer. The apothecary's voice fades into the background as you walk towards the church, the place where you once found solace. But now, even the church feels different. The prayers feel hollow. The rituals seem empty. The priest, a kind old man with a worried face, is trying to comfort a family whose child has fallen ill. He tells them to have faith, to pray, to trust in God's will. But you can see the doubt in their eyes. They want more than faith. They want a tangible cure. They want the elixir vitae. This is a classic dilemma that still echoes today when faced with an unknown illness. Do you trust in faith and prayer? Or do you turn to something that claims to be scientific? Even if it's based on a lie, the apothecary's potion, with its scientific-sounding claims, offered an alternative to a purely religious approach, and for many people, it was a more appealing option. It was a kind of proto-science, a blend of real knowledge and pure fiction, and it was a very effective way to sell a product. You remember something an old man once told you, a story about a scholar who traveled the world, collecting knowledge. He said the most dangerous thing in the world wasn't a disease, it was a lie that you believed in. That's a gentle, humorous jab at the situation. Isn't it the plague might kill you, but the lie might make you pay for your death? You're walking around with a mind full of dread, and the most dangerous thing about it is that you don't know what to believe anymore. As you head back to your cottage, you see a group of men gathered around a man holding a small leather book. He's reading from it in a booming voice, and you recognize the words. They are from a famous physician of the time, Galen, who wrote extensively about the humors. The man is not a doctor, he's a simple villager who can read, and he's using the authority of a famous name to lend weight to his own remedy. He's not selling anything, but he's spreading the fake news all the same. He's telling them to drink a potion of vinegar and honey to rebalance the humors. Just as Galen suggested, he's not malicious, he's just trying to help, but he's adding to the confusion, adding another false hope to the pile. This is another key insight into the fake news of the time. It wasn't always spread by charlatans. Sometimes, it was spread by well-meaning people who simply believed they had found the truth. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the muddy streets. The air is growing colder, and the silence is deeper now. You find yourself thinking about the apothecary. Was he truly a monster? A man who would exploit the suffering of others for his own gain? Or was he simply a man who had found a way to survive in a cruel and unpredictable world? Was he giving them what they wanted, hope even if it was a false hope? The answer isn't simple, and the line between a con man and a salesman of dreams is a thin one, especially when the dreams are all people have left. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. Were these apothecaries and peddlers of fake cures considered criminals, or simply a part of the medical landscape of the time? Some historians argue that they were seen as a necessary evil, filling a void left by the limited knowledge of university-trained doctors. Others contend that they were reviled and often punished by authorities, but that their popularity with the common people made it difficult to stop them. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You light a small fire in your hearth, the warmth a comforting presence in the growing darkness. You sit and stare at the flames, thinking about all the things you've seen today. The whispers, the lies, the desperate hope, and the cruel exploitation. You remember the old woman clutching the holy man's hair, the blacksmith with his sulfur paste, and the merchant family with their glowing vial. And now you have the apothecary, with his scientific-sounding language and his dramatic demonstration. It's all a big, confusing mess of hope and lies. And you have the terrible feeling that it's going to get much worse before it gets better. You take a deep breath and try to clear your mind. The fire crackles, a soft, soothing sound. It's a good noise, a real noise, unlike the whispers in the stories. You think about the gold florin the farmer gave the apothecary. That money could have fed his family for a year. It could have bought him a new plow instead. It bought a tiny vial of green liquid, a lie in a bottle. You shake your head, a sigh escaping your lips. You close your eyes and you can still see the apothecary's face, his calm, confident smile, a smile that promised so much and delivered so little. You can't help but wonder what he's doing now, if he's already in the next village, selling his snake oil to a new group of desperate people. The thought is a cold one, and it follows you into your dreams. A constant, nagging reminder of the lies that surround you. The sun is a pale disk in the sky, and a fine, cold mist hangs in the air. The apothecary is gone, but his presence lingers like a bad smell. The farmer who bought the elixir vitae has been seen with his family. Their face is a mixture of hope and fear, and you wonder what they're truly feeling. The stories, however, have not stopped. They have simply moved on, morphing and twisting with each new telling. Now, the whispers speak of a king, a powerful monarch in a nearby kingdom, who has fallen victim to the plague himself. His child, a young prince, lies sick in his bed, and the king, in his desperation, has turned to a charlatan with a promise of a cure. You're no longer in your village. You're a courtier now, a minor official in the king's sprawling stone castle. The air here is cleaner, the food better, but the fear is just as potent. It's a different kind of fear, a polished, well-dressed fear, but it's there all the same. A cold hand on every person's shoulder. The king, a man who once commanded armies and ruled over vast lands, is now a shadow of his former self. He paces the stone floors of his throne room, his face pale and his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. His voice, once a thunderous boom, is now a low, broken whisper. His child is dying, and his power, his wealth, his armies, none of it can save him. This is a universal historical truth power, and wealth are no protection against disease. In times of plague, everyone is equal, from the lowliest peasant to the mightiest king. This is a common theme in medieval art and literature, the dance of death, where a skeleton leads a parade of people from all walks of life, kings, peasants, popes, and children to their graves. Into this atmosphere of dread and despair steps a new figure. He calls himself Master Aurelius, and he is not a simple apothecary. He's a man of grand claims and even grander dress. His robes made of deep purple velvet and his fingers adorned with rings of gold and precious stones. He speaks with an aristocratic accent, and he carries himself with a confidence that borders on arrogance. He claims to be a scholar, a man who has studied the ancient arts of healing and has discovered a remedy for the plague that no one else has. He says he has come to the king's court not for money, but for glory. To save the prince and prove his genius to the world, Master Aurelius has an interesting twist to his fake news. He doesn't just sell a potion, he sells a whole philosophy. He claims the plague is not just a disease of the body, but of the soul. He says it is caused by a misalignment of the heavens, a cosmic imbalance that has thrown the humors out of whack. His cure, he claims, is not just a medicine but a ritual, a complex ceremony that involves the use of rare herbs, the burning of exotic incenses, and the chanting of ancient, forgotten words. It's a compelling narrative, a story that makes the king feel like he's not just treating a disease, but fighting a spiritual battle. A detail that a lot of people don't know is how common it was for these charlatans to use an air of religious or spiritual authority to sell their wares. They would often claim to have been blessed by a saint, or to have a secret knowledge passed down from an ancient order of monks. This was a very effective way to bypass the authority of both the church and the medical establishment. The king, desperate and willing to try anything, is swayed by Master Aurelius's grand claims. He grants the man an audience and allows him to begin his cure. You are there, watching it all unfold. Master Aurelius sets up his laboratory in the prince's chambers. He brings in strange, bubbling cauldrons and bizarre astrological charts. He mixes powders of a deep, midnight blue and a brilliant, fiery red. He speaks in a language you don't understand, a mix of Latin and gibberish that sounds impressive and mysterious. The actual cure is a spectacle. Master Aurelius gives the prince a small, silver spoon of a thick, syrupy liquid that he claims is a mixture of crushed rubies and distilled starlight. He then drapes the prince in a cloth woven with strange symbols and chants over him for hours. The king watches, his face a mask of hope and agony. He wants to believe it will work. He needs to believe it will work. And Master Aurelius, the master of his craft, is giving him exactly what he wants: a performance, a sense of control, a hope that there is still something he can do. This is a truly astonishing piece of fake news. It's not just a lie, it's an entire production. It's a testament to how far people will go to sell a lie when the stakes are high enough. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate: were these elaborate scams a form of art? Or were they simply a more malicious form of fraud? Some historians argue that they were a type of theatrical performance, designed to be so impressive and so convincing that people would believe in them even if they didn't work. Others contend that they were simply a cruel and heartless exploitation of the sick and the desperate. The prince, of course, does not get better. He grows weaker with each passing day. Master Aurelius, ever the master of manipulation, has an explanation. He says the plague is too strong, too deeply embedded in the prince's soul. He says he needs more powerful ingredients, more time, and, of course, more gold. The king, blinded by grief and a desperate hope, agrees that he gives Master Aurelius more gold, more resources, anything to save his son. You, watching from the sidelines, feel a pit of dread in your stomach. You know this is all a lie. You know the prince is dying, and that this man is simply prolonging the suffering and taking advantage of a grief-stricken father. But what can you do? You are a minor courtier, and your words would mean nothing against the confident pronouncements of Master Aurelius. You are a helpless witness to a grand, tragic deception. One night, you see Master Aurelius slipping out of the prince's chambers, his face a mask of a triumphant grin. He's not grieving, he's celebrating. He's won. He's taken the king's money. His reputation is soaring, and he can now move on to the next kingdom, the next desperate monarch. It's a chilling realization, a moment where the lie becomes even more cruel. He's not just a charlatan, he's a thief, a predator preying on the weak and the vulnerable. The prince dies a few days later. The king is inconsolable. He throws a tantrum, smashing a vase and weeping on his throne. But Master Aurelius is long gone. Having disappeared in the night with a bag full of the king's gold, the court is left with the terrible truth. They were all fooled. They were all complicit in this elaborate, tragic lie, and the prince is dead. A victim, not just of the plague, but of the fake news that promised to save him. You are no longer a courtier. You are a simple villager again. But you have seen things. You have seen how even the most powerful people can be brought low by fear and desperation. You have seen how a lie, if it's dressed up in enough pomp and circumstance, can be more powerful than the truth. You remember Master Aurelius's voice, his confident pronouncements, and you realize that he wasn't just selling a cure. He was selling an escape from reality, a fantasy that a king, in his darkest hour, was all too willing to buy. The memory of the king's grief, the prince's pale face, and Master Aurelius's cruel smile stays with you. You realize that the plague is not the only monster out there. There are monsters in the world who prey on people's hopes, who use their desperation as a weapon. And you realize that the most dangerous thing about fake news is not just that it's a lie, it's that it can make you believe that a lie is all you have. The king's tragic tale has become a cautionary whisper, a grim story that travels the roads and finds its way back to your village. It's a somber counterpoint to the endless stream of desperate rumors. But even with that dark lesson, the hope for a cure remains, a flickering candle in the pervasive gloom. And where there is a flickering candle, there are moths. You find yourself drawn to a new figure, not a slick traveling salesman or a grandiose charlatan, but an alchemist, a man of secrets and symbols, who promises a cure not from rare herbs but from a secret formula passed down through generations. You're a student now, an apprentice to this alchemist. The air in his cluttered workshop is thick with the scent of strange chemicals and old parchment. The walls are lined with shelves of bubbling vials and dusty tomes, and the floor is a chaotic mosaic of arcane symbols. The alchemist, a wiry man with a long, white beard and a permanent stain of unknown origin on his apron, believes in the power of ancient texts. He doesn't believe in the humors of Galen, or the prayers of the priests. He believes in the secrets of the cosmos, the alignment of the stars, and the hidden properties of the elements. His fake news is a sophisticated blend of mysticism and pseudoscience. A lie that is so complex it almost feels true. He tells you that the plague is not a disease of the body, but a disease of the soul, caused by a malevolent planetary alignment. He says that the only way to combat it is to create a panacea, a universal cure, a secret formula that will not only heal the body but also purify the spirit. This is a universal historical fact. The medieval period was a time of great intellectual ferment, where the lines between science, religion, and magic were often blurred. The study of alchemy, with its promise of transforming base metals into gold and creating a universal cure, was a respected field. Even if it was often practiced by charlatans and dreamers, the alchemist's great work is a constant, frenetic flurry of activity. He spends his days poring over dusty books written in Latin and other dead languages, his nights hunched over a roaring furnace, stirring a cauldron filled with a bubbling, iridescent liquid. He claims his formula is based on the Philosopher's Stone, a mythical substance that can grant immortality and cure all diseases. His recipe is a bizarre concoction of crushed moonstones, a few drops of mercury, a pinch of powdered unicorn horn, and a few drops of his own blood. It's a beautiful, poetic, and utterly useless lie. A detail that a lot of people don't know is how much the promise of a universal cure resonated with people. The idea that there was one single, magical substance that could cure all diseases was a powerful one. A kind of pre-scientific longing for a simple, elegant solution to a complex problem. This is a gentle, humorous jab at the human condition. Isn't it we always want a single solution to all of our problems? Even when the problems themselves are incredibly complex, the alchemist is not a cruel man. He genuinely believes in his work. He's not doing this for the gold, he's doing it for the glory, for the chance to be remembered as the man who saved the world. You, as his apprentice, are caught in the middle. You're a witness to his fevered obsession, his unwavering belief in his own genius. You watch as he meticulously follows a recipe that is pure nonsense, but he follows it with the precision of a master craftsman. He's a dreamer, a man who has convinced himself that his lies are the truth. And in a way, that makes him more dangerous than the charlatans who know they are lying. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. Were these alchemists and mystics a part of the medieval scientific community? Or were they on the fringes? Some historians argue that they were a crucial part of the intellectual landscape, and that their experiments, however misguided, laid the groundwork for modern chemistry. Others contend that they were simply a distraction, a sideshow to the real scientific progress that was happening at the universities and in the hands of the physicians. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You spend your days grinding strange herbs, mixing bubbling liquids, and transcribing ancient texts. You learn to recognize the symbols for mercury, sulfur, and salt, the three essential elements of alchemy. You learn to read the astrological charts, to find the right alignment of the stars for a particular potion. It's a fascinating education, a beautiful lie. And as the plague continues to ravage the land, the alchemist's work becomes more and more desperate. He starts to work through the night, his eyes red and his face gaunt. He's a man possessed, a man who is convinced that he's on the verge of a great discovery. One day, he announces that he has done it. He has created the panacea, the universal cure. He holds up a small, crystal vial filled with a clear liquid that seems to shimmer with an inner light. He says it will not only cure the plague, but also grant eternal youth and wisdom. You look at it, and you feel nothing. You know it's just a mixture of rainwater and a few drops of mercury, a substance he has been working with for weeks. But the alchemist believes it. He believes it with a sincerity that is heartbreaking. He goes to the village square, where a large crowd is gathered, their faces etched with a familiar mixture of hope and fear. He doesn't shout. He simply holds up the vial and announces his discovery. He says he will give a few drops to a family whose child has fallen ill. The parents, their faces pale and their hands shaking, bring their child forward. The alchemist, with a theatrical flourish, gives the child a few drops of the liquid. The crowd watches, their breath held, their hope hanging on this single, fragile moment. The child does not get better. The plague, a merciless and indifferent force, takes the child a few days later. The alchemist is heartbroken. He's not a charlatan who knows he's lying. He's a true believer, a man who has convinced himself of his own fiction. He retreats to his workshop, his dreams shattered, his faith in his work destroyed. He sits in his cluttered workshop, surrounded by his bubbling cauldrons and dusty tomes. A broken man. You leave his workshop, the scent of chemicals and old paper clinging to your clothes. You are a simple villager again, but you have seen a different kind of fake news. You have seen a lie that was born not of malice, but of a desperate, delusional hope. You've seen a man who was so desperate to believe in his own genius that he couldn't see the truth, even when it was staring him in the face. And you realize that the most dangerous lies are the ones that we tell ourselves. The ones that we believe with all of our hearts. The plague, a merciless and indifferent force, continues to claim its victims. The rumors of cures, however, have quieted for a time. The alchemist's failure, the king's tragedy, and the apothecary's disappearance have all served as a grim reminder that there are no easy answers, no magical solutions. The people of the village are no longer looking for a quick fix. They are looking for something else, something more real, something more solid. The silence in the village is thick, heavy with unspoken grief. The marketplace is quiet, the traveling apothecaries and grandiose charlatans having moved on, leaving behind a trail of broken promises and empty pockets. But the plague has not moved on. It is a grim, constant presence, a shadow in every doorway. The whispers have returned, but they are different now. They are not filled with the desperate hope for a magical cure, but with a quiet, resigned yearning for something real, something that could actually help. You, a villager still. Find yourself on a journey, not for a cure, but for understanding. You've heard tales of a monastery in the hills, a place of learning and contemplation. where a monk is said to be working on a genuine cure. Driven by faith and a deep understanding of natural remedies, you're a pilgrim now, walking the dusty road to the monastery, your feet sore and your mind weary. The journey is long, but the thought of a real cure, a real hope, keeps you going. The monastery is a beautiful, serene place, a cluster of stone buildings nestled in a valley, surrounded by lush green fields. The air here is clean and cool, and the only sound is the gentle ringing of a bell and the soft murmur of prayers. This is a place of order and discipline, a stark contrast to the chaos and fear of your village. You are introduced to Brother Thomas, the monk who is said to be working on the cure. He is an old man, his face a roadmap of wrinkles and his hands gnarled from years of work. He doesn't have the grand robes of Master Aurelius or the confident swagger of the apothecary. He wears a simple brown tunic, and his hands, though old, are strong and steady. He is not a showman, he is a scholar, a man who has dedicated his life to the study of God's creations, both in the spiritual world and the natural one. Brother Thomas's work is not a secret formula or a magical potion. He works in a quiet, organized workshop, surrounded by shelves of dried herbs, labeled and arranged with meticulous care. He doesn't believe in humors or planetary alignments. He believes in the healing power of God's creations. He tells you that he is not trying to find a cure for the plague. He is trying to find a way to help the body fight the plague itself. It's a subtle but crucial difference, a shift from a magical cure to a practical, scientific approach. He shows you his work. He's been experimenting with different herbs, boiling them down into teas and poultices. He has a small garden where he grows all the herbs he uses. He tells you he's been studying the properties of each herb, testing them on sick animals, keeping meticulous records of what works and what doesn't. He's a true scientist, a man who believes in observation, experimentation, and record-keeping. This is a universal historical fact. While the medieval world was plagued by superstition and fake news, it was also a time of genuine scientific inquiry, and many of the foundations of modern medicine were laid in monasteries and universities. A detail that a lot of people don't know is just how much monks contributed to the development of medicine. Many monasteries had extensive gardens where they grew medicinal herbs, and the monks were often the most educated people in their communities. With access to ancient texts and a tradition of scholarship, they were the original apothecaries, the ones who created the first medical texts and recipes. This is a gentle, humorous jab at the idea that all monks did was pray all day. Isn't it they were also the chemists, the botanists, and the doctors of their time? Brother Thomas's vow is to help people, not to get rich. He doesn't ask for money for his remedies. He asks for a prayer, a moment of silence for the sick, a contribution of food or labor to the monastery. He is not selling a product, he is offering a service. A quiet act of faith and charity in a world of greed and despair. You watch him work, his old hands moving with a practiced ease as he crushes herbs and stirs a pot of boiling water. You see a man who is not a showman or a charlatan, but a good man, a man who is genuinely trying to help. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate: how much of Brother Thomas's success, however limited, was due to his scientific method, and how much was due to the placebo effect. Some historians argue that the faith that people had in a holy man's remedies, even if the remedies themselves were useless, could have a real, psychological effect that helped them to get better. Others contend that some of the herbal remedies themselves, such as willow bark for pain or chamomile for sleep, actually had real therapeutic effects that made a difference. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You stay at the monastery for a few days, helping Brother Thomas in his garden, learning about the properties of different plants. You learn that a poultice of crushed comfrey can help with swelling, that a tea of mint can help with stomach ailments, and that a brew of elderflower can help with fever. It's a different kind of knowledge, a more grounded, practical knowledge. And it feels more real than the grand, empty promises of the charlatans. Brother Thomas's cure for the plague is not a magical one. He has a simple, three-part approach. First, he tells people to keep their homes clean and their bodies clean. Second, he tells them to drink a tea made from a mixture of herbs thyme, sage, and hyssop that he says will help to purify the blood. Third, he tells them to pray, to have faith, to find solace in God's love. It's a simple, humble approach. A world away from the grand spectacle of Master Aurelius. You leave the monastery, a new sense of hope in your heart, a small pouch of Brother Thomas's herbs in your pocket. You don't know if his cure will work, but you know that it's real. It's a real act of kindness, a real attempt to help, a real piece of knowledge. You return to your village, no longer a helpless victim, but a person with a purpose. You are a messenger now, a man who has seen a different way, a better way, and you are a man who has a story to tell. A story about a monk who didn't sell a lie, but offered a truth. And in the dark world of the plague, a small, humble truth can be more powerful than the biggest, most beautiful lie. The small pouch of herbs from Brother Thomas feels like a weight of both hope and responsibility. The simple truth of his work, the cleanliness, the herbal remedies. The prayers is a stark contrast to the grand lies you've witnessed. You return to your village, and you begin to tell your story, to spread this new, quiet kind of hope. But the plague is still here, and the fear is a fertile ground for a new kind of deception. The whispers have a new subject now. A traveling merchant has arrived, and he is selling serpent's oil, a highly sought after, a supposed cure peddled for immense profit in this time of crisis. You're a town elder now, a figure of some respect in your small community. People come to you for advice, for wisdom, for stories of the outside world, and you find yourself in the center of a new storm of fake news. The merchant, a slick, handsome man with a smooth voice and an even smoother smile, sets up his stall in the marketplace. He doesn't have the grand theater of the alchemist or the aristocratic air of Master Aurelius. He is a salesman, pure and simple, and his product is a lie as old as time. He holds up a small, dark bottle, and inside, a thick, greasy, black liquid seems to swirl and catch the light. This, he says, his voice a low, confidential rumble, is the sacred oil of the serpent. It is rendered from the venom of a rare, mountain-dwelling viper, a creature that is immune to all diseases. A single drop on your skin will create a protective barrier, a shield that will turn away the evil spirits of the plague. He's a masterful storyteller, and his story is a simple one, a lie that plays on a deep, primal fear of serpents and a deep, primal hope for protection. This is a universal historical truth. Snake oil has been a popular fake cure for centuries. The idea that a powerful, dangerous animal holds the secret to a cure is a compelling one. And it's a lie that has been told in every culture, in every time of crisis. The original snake oil, a medicine made from the oil of the Chinese water snake, actually had some therapeutic properties, but it was quickly co-opted by charlatans who sold fake versions of it. And the term has become a synonym for fake medicine. A detail that a lot of people don't know is that the merchants who sold these fake cures often used a very clever marketing tactic. They would often have a live serpent with them, a harmless one. To lend an air of authenticity to their claims, they would handle the snake, telling the crowd that the oil had given them a special immunity, a courage that no other man possessed. It was a beautiful, theatrical lie, a performance that made people believe in the product even if they didn't believe in the merchant. The merchant's price is steep, but not as steep as the apothecary's. He asks for a silver coin, a high price for a farmer, but a price that is not entirely out of reach. He knows his market. He knows that if he makes the price too high, people will be suspicious. If he makes it too low, they will think the product is worthless. He has found the perfect balance, the perfect price for a lie. He is a master of his craft, a true expert in the art of human psychology. You watch as a young woman, a mother of 3, steps forward, her face pale with worry. She buys a small bottle of the oil, her hands shaking as she takes it from the merchant. He smiles at her. A professional, reassuring smile. "Rub it on your children's skin every night," he tells her, "and the plague will pass them by." The woman nods, a look of profound relief on her face. You can see the hope in her eyes, the absolute conviction that she has just bought her children's salvation. It's a heart-wrenching sight, a testament to the power of a lie to comfort and a lie to destroy. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. Were these merchants seen as criminals? Or were they a part of the social fabric of the time? Some historians argue that they were seen as a necessary evil, a form of entertainment and hope in a world of endless suffering. Others contend that they were reviled and often punished by local authorities, but that their popularity with the common people made it difficult to stop them. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You try to talk to the young woman, to tell her about Brother Thomas, about the real, humble cure he has found, but she doesn't listen. She has already bought her hope, and she is not willing to let it go. She is a true believer. A person who has fallen for a lie because the truth was too hard to bear. You watch her walk away, clutching the small bottle of black oil, and you feel a wave of despair. You have seen the truth, and you have seen the lie. And you realize that the lie is often more powerful, more seductive, more comforting than the truth. The merchant stays in your village for a few days, his sales booming, his pockets growing heavier with each passing day. He is a master of his craft, and he is a good man. Or so he seems. He is kind to the children. He buys a drink for a few of the men, and he tells jokes and stories that make people laugh. He is not a monster. He is a charming, likable man. And that is what makes his lie so insidious, so dangerous. He has a friendly face, a warm voice, a person you want to believe in. The merchant leaves one day, as mysteriously as he arrived, leaving behind a trail of empty bottles and broken promises. A few days later, you hear that the young woman's children have fallen ill. You go to her house, and you see the small, dark bottle of oil on the table. It's almost empty. She tells you she used it every night, just as the merchant told her. She tells you she believed it would work. She believed it with all of her heart. The children die a few days later. The young woman is inconsolable. She has lost her children, and she has lost her hope. She has been robbed of her life savings, and she has been robbed of her belief in the world. You sit with her, and you try to comfort her, but you know your words are hollow. You have seen the cruel, grinning face of fake news, and you have seen the terrible price of believing in a lie. And you realize that the most dangerous lie is not the one that promises a cure, but the one that takes away your hope. The village is a graveyard of silent grief and broken trust. The serpent's oil, the alchemist's panacea, the apothecary's elixir all have proven to be cruel jokes, and the memory of their failures is a heavy weight on the collective spirit. But a new kind of whisper is starting, a different kind of hope, one that doesn't involve money or grand promises. It's a whisper of folklore and forgotten knowledge. A tale of a wise woman in the woods, a figure shrouded in myth and mystery, who offers a different kind of remedy, a potion of forgotten knowledge. Blurring the line between myth and medicine, you're a seeker now, a person who has seen too much of the lies of men and is now looking for a different kind of truth. You leave the village and venture into the deep, dark woods, a place of shadows and secrets, a place that a part of you is afraid of, but another part is drawn to. You are looking for the witch, the wise woman, the healer. You find her in a small, moss-covered cottage, a a place that seems to have grown out of the earth itself. The air inside is thick with the scent of dried herbs and wood smoke, and the walls are lined with shelves of strange, bundled plants and small, hand-carved fetishes. The wise woman, a crone with a face like a dried apple and eyes that seem to see right through you, is not a charlatan. She is not selling anything. She is a healer, a keeper of ancient knowledge, a person who has dedicated her life to the study of the natural world. She doesn't believe in the humors or the planetary alignments. She believes in the power of nature, in the properties of the plants and the stones, and in the old, forgotten ways. Her fake news is not a lie. It's a form of knowledge that the formal, male-dominated world of medieval medicine would never accept. She tells you the plague is a sickness of the earth, a miasma, an evil spirit that has risen from the ground to punish the people for their sins. Her cure is not a single potion, but a ritual, a deep communion with the natural world. She gives you a small bag of dried herbs, a mixture of chamomile, valerian root, and yarrow. She tells you to boil them in water, to drink the tea, and to take the steam into your lungs. She tells you that these herbs will not cure the plague, but they will help you to sleep, to calm your fever, and to strengthen your body so that it can fight the sickness itself. This is a universal historical fact, many of the folk remedies of the medieval world, which were often dismissed as witchcraft by the church and the medical establishment, were actually based on centuries of practical knowledge and observation. Many of the herbs they used, such as willow bark for pain, which contains salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin, and chamomile for sleep, actually had real therapeutic effects. A detail that a lot of people don't know is how much the fear of witchcraft was tied to the fear of disease. When a doctor couldn't explain a sickness, it was often blamed on a witch, and the wise woman who had been a respected healer could suddenly find herself a target of suspicion and persecution. This is a gentle, humorous jab at the human tendency to blame the unknown on the most vulnerable. Isn't it the witch, the wise woman, was often the scapegoat for a world that no one could understand? The wise woman's brew, her potion of folklore and forgotten knowledge, is not a lie. It's a different kind of truth, a truth that is not found in books or in universities, but in the earth itself. She doesn't ask for money. She asks for a small basket of fresh eggs, a few pieces of bread, a moment of your time to listen to her stories. She is a woman who is a part of her community, a person who is giving a gift, not selling a product. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. Were these wise women and folk healers a threat to the established medical order, or were they a necessary part of the medical landscape? Some historians argue that they were a threat, and that the church and the universities actively tried to suppress them, to maintain their own power and authority. Others contend that they were a vital part of the medical system, and that the common people often turned to them for help when the university-trained doctors failed them. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You return to your village with the wise woman's herbs and her stories. You tell people about her simple, humble wisdom, about her different kind of cure, and some people listen. They go to the woods and find her, and they return with their own stories, their own herbs, their own quiet hope. You have seen the beautiful, grand lies, and you have seen the humble, simple truth. And you realize that the most powerful thing about fake news is not its ability to deceive, but its ability to destroy the very idea of truth itself. The quiet solace of the wise woman's cottage and the humble efficacy of her remedies have provided a brief respite, a glimpse of a world where truth and healing are not for sale. But the reality of the plague is a relentless shadow, and the official world of medicine cannot be ignored forever. The whispers now speak of a university-trained physician, a man who has arrived in a nearby town, a man who is grappling with the very same problems you have been witnessing. He struggles to provide real help amidst the chaos, caught between the established, but often flawed. medical knowledge of his time, and the rampant fake news that has taken hold of the populace. You're an assistant to this physician now, a student of his methods, a witness to his dilemma. He is a man of learning, a man who has studied at a prestigious university, a man who believes in the science of his time. He doesn't believe in serpent's oil or planetary alignments. He believes in the humors, in the careful study of the body, and in the power of reason. But his world, his beautiful, ordered world of logic and science, is being torn apart by the very chaos he is trying to contain. He is a doctor, and he has a terrible dilemma. He is a man who is supposed to be an authority, a man who is supposed to have all the answers. But he doesn't. He has a set of tools, a set of beliefs, and a set of remedies that are often no more effective than the snake oil of the traveling merchant. He believes in bloodletting, in purging, in the use of leeches, all of which are based on the theory of the humors, and all of which are often more harmful than helpful. He is a good man, a man who genuinely wants to help, but his knowledge is a cage, and his beliefs are a set of chains. This is a universal historical fact, the medical knowledge of the medieval world, while based on a foundation of reason and observation, was often deeply flawed. The theory of the four humors, which dominated Western medicine for over 1,000 years, led to a host of practices that were ineffective at best and deadly at worst. The doctor's dilemma is a classic one. How do you help people when the tools you have been given are not up to the task? A detail that a lot of people don't know is how much the plague challenged the very foundations of this medical knowledge. When the humors theory failed to explain the plague, when the bloodletting and the purges did nothing, the physicians were left with nothing. Their authority, their knowledge, their very purpose was called into question. This is a gentle, humorous jab at the idea that science always has the answers. Isn't it sometimes? Science is just as lost as everyone else. The physician's dilemma is compounded by the fake news. He has to contend not just with the plague, but with the endless stream of remedies that people are trying. People come to him with their concoctions of mandrake root and nightshade, their oils of serpents and their charms of holy men. They ask him if these things will work, if they should continue to use them. He, a man of learning and reason, has to tell them that they won't. He has to tell them that their hope is a lie, and that is a terrible, heartbreaking thing to have to do. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. How did the medieval medical community react to the spread of fake news? Did they try to combat it? Or did they simply ignore it? Some historians argue that they tried to combat it, but that their own limited knowledge and their lack of a credible alternative made it a losing battle. Others contend that they often ignored it, seeing it as a problem of the common people. A problem beneath their notice. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You watch as the physician, a kind and gentle man, treats his patients. He takes their pulse, he looks at their tongues, he feels their foreheads. He prescribes his own remedies, a special diet, a regimen of rest, a mixture of herbs that he believes will rebalance their humors. He is doing everything he can, but he is doing it with a set of tools that are not up to the task. You see the frustration on his face, the quiet despair in his eyes. He is a man who is watching his world fall apart, a man who is being forced to confront the limits of his own knowledge. He is a different kind of victim of the fake news. The villagers are victims of the lies themselves, of the false hope that they buy with their money. The physician is a victim of the fake news because it undermines his authority. It makes his own, often flawed. Truth seemed no more credible than the wildest of lies. He is a man who is fighting a losing battle, a man who is trying to bring reason to a world that has gone mad with fear. And in that, he is a tragic figure, a man who is a victim not just of the plague, but of the very age in which he lives. You leave the physician's side, your mind heavy with the weight of what you have seen. You have seen the charlatans and the wise women, the kings and the peasants, the believers and the dreamers, and you have seen the doctor, the man who was supposed to have all the answers but had none. You have seen the full spectrum of fake news, from the malicious lie to the well-meaning falsehood, and you have learned a terrible truth that in a world of fear, a lie can be more comforting than the truth, and a beautiful fiction can be more powerful than a hard, unyielding reality. The physician's noble failure, the alchemist's broken dreams, the apothecary's cruel deceptions. All of these stories have woven themselves into the fabric of your world. The plague, indifferent to the hopes and lies of men, continues its slow, grim march. You are no longer just a villager, or a courtier, or a student. You are a person who has seen the many faces of fake news and the many forms of human desperation. You have learned that the lie is often more comforting than the truth, and that a beautiful fiction can be more powerful than a hard, unyielding reality. But there is one last desperate hope. One last kind of fake news that has not yet been exposed, the pilgrimage of hope. A journey to a sacred site. Believing a saint's relic holds the power to heal. A testament to faith over science. You are a pilgrim now, walking with a group of people who have lost everything to the plague. They are farmers and merchants, old men and young women, all united by a single desperate hope. They are not looking for a potion or an elixir. They are looking for a miracle. They have heard stories of a saint's relic, a piece of bone from a holy man. That has the power to heal the sick and bring the dead back to life. They have heard that this relic, a fragment of a skull, is kept in a small, remote monastery, and that a pilgrimage to this place is the only way to be saved. This is a universal historical fact. Pilgrimages were a common and powerful form of religious devotion in the medieval world. People would travel for hundreds of miles, enduring hardship and danger, to visit a sacred site or to touch a holy relic. The belief in the healing power of these relics was deeply ingrained in the culture, and it was a form of hope that was often more powerful than any medicine. A detail that a lot of people don't know is how much the church and the monasteries that housed these relics benefited from these pilgrimages. The donations from the pilgrims, the money they spent on food and lodging, and the fees they paid to see the relics were a major source of income. This is a gentle, humorous jab at the idea that the church was always a purely spiritual institution. Isn't it? It was also a very practical, very business-oriented one. The pilgrimage is a journey of faith, but it is also a journey of desperation. People are sick, they are weak, and they are dying on the road. You see a woman, her face pale with fever, walking with her husband, her hand in his, her eyes closed in prayer. You see a man, his leg wrapped in a dirty rag, limping along, his face a mask of pain and determination. They are all walking towards the same thing, a lie. A beautiful, comforting, and ultimately cruel lie. The monastery is a grand, beautiful place, and the relic is housed in a small, ornate chapel. The monks, dressed in their brown robes, are there to greet the pilgrims. They are not charlatans or monsters. They are men of God, men who genuinely believe in the power of the relic. They believe it with a sincerity that is heartbreaking. They believe that their faith, and the faith of the pilgrims, will bring about a miracle. And in that, they are a different kind of purveyor of fake news. A person who is selling a lie not for profit, but for the glory of God. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. Was the belief in the healing power of relics a form of fake news? Or was it a legitimate form of religious expression? Some historians argue that it was a form of fake news, a way to control and manipulate the populace, to make them believe in a lie. Others contend that it was a legitimate part of the religious life of the time, and that the faith itself could have a real, psychological effect that helped people to get better. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You watch as the pilgrims, their faces tear-streaked and their hands clasped in prayer, approach the relic. They touch the small piece of bone. They whisper their prayers. They fall to their knees. And some of them, in a moment of pure, unadulterated faith, seem to get better. The fever breaks, the pain subsides, the fear recedes. It's a miracle, or so it seems. But you, a person who has seen the lies, know that it's just a moment of grace, a moment of psychological relief in a world of endless suffering. You leave the monastery, your mind heavy with the weight of what you have seen. You have seen the full spectrum of fake news, from the malicious lie to the well-meaning falsehood, from the scientific sounding to the religious, and you have learned a terrible truth that in a world of fear, a lie can be more comforting than the truth, and a beautiful fiction can be more powerful than a hard, unyielding reality. The plague recedes. The grim, relentless march of death slows to a halt, and the bells of the village, once a mournful dirge, ring out with a fragile, hesitant joy. You, a survivor, a witness to the full spectrum of human hope and despair, are no longer the person you once were. You have seen the charlatans and the wise women, the kings and the peasants, the believers and the dreamers. You have seen the beautiful, grand lies, and you have seen the humble, simple truths. And you have learned a terrible truth that the plague is not the only monster out there. The fake news, the false hopes, the cruel deceptions, they were all a part of the sickness, a part of the contagion that swept through your world. You walk through your village, and you see the changes, the lingering scars of the plague, the old man with the bent back, the young woman with the serpent's oil, they are gone. Their story is a permanent part of the village's memory. The apothecary's spot in the marketplace is empty, a silent testament to the lie he sold, the king's tragedy. The alchemist's broken dreams, they are a part of the history of your world. A dark lesson learned at a terrible price. You find yourself sitting by the fire, a small, quiet fire that crackles and pops, a soft, soothing sound that is a welcome change from the endless whispers. You think about all the things you have seen, all the people you have met. You remember the blacksmith with his sulfur paste, the woman with the holy man's hair, and the merchant family with their glowing vial. You remember Master Aurelius and his grand, theatrical lie, the alchemist and his desperate, delusional hope, the wise woman and her quiet, humble truth, and the doctor and his noble, tragic failure. You remember the pilgrims and their desperate faith? You remember all of it. And you realize that the most dangerous thing about the fake news was not just that it was a lie, but that it took away the one thing that people needed most trust. This is a universal historical fact. The aftermath of a plague was often a time of social and psychological turmoil. The breakdown of social order, the loss of trust in authorities, and the lingering trauma of the deaths all contributed to a changed world. The plague, in its own terrible way, forced people to confront the limitations of their knowledge and the fragility of their world. A detail that a lot of people don't know is how much the plague, and the fake cures that came with it, contributed to the rise of modern science, the failure of the humors theory, the ineffectiveness of the religious cures, and the widespread deaths forced doctors and scholars to question their assumptions and to look for new, more scientific ways of understanding the world. The plague, a disease of the body, became a catalyst for a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing the world. This brings up a fascinating point of academic debate. How much did the plague and the fake news it spawned contribute to the secularization of the world? Did the failure of the religious and magical cures, and the rise of a more scientific way of thinking, lead people to lose their faith in God and the Church? Some historians argue that it did, and that the plague was a major turning point in the history of the Western world. Others contend that faith remained strong, and that people simply found a new way to reconcile their faith with the new scientific realities. The truth, like a lot of historical truth, is probably a blend of the two. You, a survivor of this dark time, are a person who has seen the full circle of the story. You have seen the start of the fake news, and you have seen its terrible end. You have seen the power of a lie to comfort and the power of a lie to destroy. You have seen a world that was torn apart by fear and deception, and you have seen a world that is slowly, hesitantly, beginning to heal. And you realize that the most important thing you can do now is to remember the stories, to remember the lies, to remember the truths, and to tell the story so that others will not forget. The world has changed. The whispers of the plague are gone, replaced by the quiet murmurs of a new world being born. The charlatans have moved on. The wise women are more respected, and the doctors are looking for new, more scientific ways of understanding the world. And you, a person who has seen it all, are a testament to the power of memory, the power of a story, and the power of a single, humble truth to overcome the grandest of lies. The fire in your hearth is just a soft, red glow now. The world outside is dark, and the village is quiet, a deep, silent peace that feels foreign and welcome. The sound of the wind whispers through the thatched roof, a soft, soothing hum that is a world away from the desperate whispers of the plague. You pull your blanket tighter, the warmth a comforting weight against the lingering chill of a world that has been through so much. You close your eyes, and you can still see them all: the farmer with his gold florin, the king with his broken heart, the alchemist with his empty dreams. But you can also see the wise woman with her quiet wisdom, the monk with his gentle faith, the doctor with his noble struggle. The world is a complex, beautiful, and terrible place, filled with both truth and lies. And you, a survivor, are a part of it all. You are a part of the story. The embers of the fire begin to fade, and the room falls into a gentle darkness. The hum of the fan, a soft, mechanical breath, is the only sound. The stories are over now. The whispers have quieted. The journey has ended. There is nothing left to do but to close your eyes, to rest, to sleep. May your dreams be filled with quiet truths and gentle hopes.